say that there was a Forbes article written about you and the way that you've built and scaled your business in 5 years, and it was based around what you'd given back to your industry. What would you want to be written about you in that article? What is wrong with the healthcare system right now? Let's just get right into it.
That's a great question, one that doesn't get answered enough, truthfully. So from my perspective, healthcare is more like sick care, to be honest with you. So the healthcare system has only yet to learn how to really monetize based off of injured and sick people, right? So they know how to make money off of, hey, when you're injured, we can take care of you. It's not really going to be the best process ever, but we've learned how to make money doing that. Whereas the unfortunate thing is, especially as a physical therapist, majority of things that they make money for can be prevented. So it's hard because they don't know how they have yet to learn how to monetize preventative care, right? So in that case, they're going to go, well, then why are we going to educate individuals on how to take care of themselves, how to eat healthy, how to perform properly, how to get regularly checked, things of that nature, if they've yet to learn how to monetize off that. So that what's wrong with the healthcare system is that since it's ultimately a business and they make the most money based off back surgeries, hip surgeries, pharmaceutical companies, knee replacements, then they're going to go, well, then why are we going to, we have yet to learn how to monetize preventative care. Why would we, start doing that? So
it's almost to their benefit if people are already injured or sick.
Exactly. It's a vicious cycle. So it's the best way I can put it is we know we should go get our eyes checked once a year, right? We know we should go get our teeth checked, right? Our mouth cleaned 2 times a year or 1 time a year, right? How come, let's ask ourselves, why aren't we getting our head to toe checked from a mobility, strength, balance, and functional movement assessment at least twice a year, right? And the answer to that question is truthfully because they make the most money off of you not taking care of your body.
And there's not really an incentive for education around that, I guess.
No. And that's where the frustration for someone who's in the PT field, like myself as a physical therapist, we should be the leaders of preventative care, right? We should be the leaders in teaching people, hey, these are the fundamental movements of what we need to do to have quality in life and maximize performance. Come in, do a XYZ check, and let's see if something is maybe something is green and you're good. You have a green, you're good, right? Yellow flag, hey, maybe you need to start checking on a few of these, and then red flag, let's take care of this so it doesn't get worse. And that's really what it should be, but it's not.
So what kind of things are you hoping to see over the next couple of years to move that in the opposite direction? What can be done, if anything, about that?
Man, I'm pretty sure you can ask any physical therapist or especially people who have been in the business for a while, and even new physical therapists coming out. We have horrible business people. Like, it is a horrible business model.
Is that because you spend so long just learning how to actually be a doctor and prescribe and actually attack these issues and understand it, that you don't really learn the business behind it? It's not necessarily emphasized in the learning that goes into being one.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the fact that when you are at the level of when you've gotten your doctorate, you're really good at math and science, right? You're not really good at business and marketing. The issue is there's also some sort of taboo feeling that comes around being like, I'm good at business and marketing and sales. The issue with that is that that's wrong. You shouldn't, if you're doing the right thing for the right cause, then marketing and sales should be fun, because you're actually, at the end of the day, the more you get it out there and the more you have people do your service, then the more help you're doing for people.
Yeah.
Right? So it's almost, so physical therapists specifically, since I'm in the field, I would say they're limited in going, if you ask a random person on the street and say, what do physical therapists do? They'd be like, oh, when you're injured, you go rehab, right?
It's true.
That's literally like waiting until your car's on the side of the road before getting it checked, right? We're movement specialists and performance specialists, right? So that means that you truthfully should go to a physical therapist before. That's why we're doctors. We're specialists in musculoskeletal, which, like we talked about before, muscles, joints, ligaments, tendons, all that, and movements. So if you get checked before and periodically, you avoid the injuries. Low back is the number one reason why people are called out of work. That is one of the most preventative things you can do is treat your low back. But you ask anyone, they're like, oh, I'm screwed. My low back hurts. There's nothing I can do about it. Absolutely incorrect.
This is a really good segue because we had kind of talked about off air, like some of these preventative things.
Mm-hmm.
A big thing for you was the lower back that we talked about before. That
Yes.
was like a major injury that really got you into the space. What are the top 5 like most prevailing ailments or issues that you see that people could be working on preventing in their day-to-day work life for working professionals, and how do people attack that?
So I would say the common things that I see is low back pain, right? Low back pain. I also see cervical radiculopathy, which is a fancy way of saying neck pain, right? And how it sometimes we have, numbness and tingling down our arms, or we just have like this like, oh, my neck kind of bothers me, have this like kind of stiff or whatever. So neck pain, headaches, of course, which is associated with neck pain, knee pain is a big one. And the knee, I always say, is majority of the time it's the victim, not the suspect, right? So a lot of knee pains happen because of either ankle issues or hip issues. Yeah, and the knee is kind of the one that just kind of gets screwed over because of one or the other.
That's where the pressure of the issue kind of meets.
So, for example, if you lack ankle range of motion, specifically dorsiflexion is the one that people typically miss, right? It's your ability to point your foot up, right? Gravity points us down, so therefore a lot of times we're limited in the other direction. If that's limited and we go to land on something and you don't have the amount of absorption energy to kind of soften the blow, then it's going to shoot right up to the knee.
Gotcha.
Right. So people will come in and be like, my knee is killing me. And then we do a full, assessment as we should. And we go, nope, it's the suspect, not the victim.
Else.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly. So those are, I think that was 4 or 5, might have been 5. But the biggest thing I would say that the first step you should take is understanding why. Right. So going in for an evaluation, and not waiting until it's like I said, on the side of the road. So going in and doing that. And then the second thing I would, and it should be told during your evaluation, is understanding that there's these fundamental movements that we do in life. There's a squat, a hip hinge, a forward lunge, a side lunge, right? A overhead reach, a push and pull. Everything we do in life are based off those movements. So if you're really good at the simple foundational platform of knowing how to do a hip hinge, a squat, a forward lunge, a side lunge, a push and pull, an overhead reach, then your quality of life is significantly better.
Yeah, I mean, you see so many issues with people just because they get so poor at a lot of those movements. When you become a working professional, you kind of just forget to keep up with that, especially if you're not in the gym.
Yeah.
What are some kind of day-to-day things that you think people could and should be doing to at least help kind of prevent that and work on those motions?
Man, and I'm going to say something that's like that people kind of know but kind of forget, right?
Those are some of the most important things.
We sit down a lot, right? Yeah. So that's the big one is just getting up, activating your glutes, right? It's one of the biggest muscles in our bodies, and a lot of time it's turned off. So if it's not working for you or not doing the job when it's supposed to, it's going to ask for help to the nearest place. The nearest place is our lower back, right? So just keeping our glutes on, activated, core on, activated, which a lot of that gets shut off when we're sitting down.
This is something I remember from my days personal training that kind of blew me away. Is so many people get used to not even using their glutes to stand up in the first place. It sounds like it would happen automatically for like the the layman. Like you kind of think that like you just automatically use your glutes to stand up, or you don't even necessarily know what that means. Could you talk a little bit about like what that means? How do you actually activate your glutes to stand up?
Yeah.
How do you tell?
Well, it's understanding, first of all, what is the purpose of our glutes? Like, what does it actually do, right? Glutes, what they do is hip extension, right? So it's when your leg, or there's 2 ways to do it. So you can either bring your leg back, or you can just go from a bent position to being straight up, right? So what ends up happening a lot of times is when we go in that position, those who are quote unquote have turned it off, or it's not really always off, but for the sake of simplicity, off, right? They end up arching their back too much, right? So therefore, they're going to get that extension, but it's going to come from somewhere else,
Gotcha.
Right? So they just compensate in that way, or they put too much of their quads, so they put too much on the basis of like straightening their legs versus actually extending their hips,
Gotcha.
right? And that's where some knee pain can come in, so things of that nature. So that's what I would say is one, yeah.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So that kind of covers a couple things. That covers like the lower back thing and the tight hips. What about the ankles? How do you kind of prevent that? Because I feel like people don't really think about that very often. That's kind of responsible for shin splints in a lot of cases.
Yeah, it can be for sure. I would say ankles is more so just not forgetting to just do that motion. It's very simple, just doing that motion and just which is just putting your feet towards towards you and just keeping your mobility.
Something you could even do just while you're sitting down at work. Just kind of like flexing back and forth.
Yeah, and we see that a lot with women that they'll lack it because when they wear heels, they go into that plantar flexion, right? So a lot of them they'll have their feet hurt or their ankle. That's why on movies and stuff like that. Oh, can I get a foot rub or whatever? It's because a lot of times they're spent in that position and they really want to go in the opposite.
Right.
So that's one is just keeping it moving, but the big one too is balance. So ankles is typically the first response for balance. So working on just, hey man, can I maintain a single leg balance for 30 seconds? And then, okay, can I do that with my eyes open? Now can I do it with my eyes closed? Right? And being able to maintain that is great for the ankles as well.
Just kind of going through those little tests and making sure that you've got at least that, and if not, kind of working on it. How about like the overhead stuff? What would you recommend for that?
Overhead stuff that I would say, so the biggest thing that I see with overhead stuff is understanding the biomechanics behind it. So we have 180 degrees of motion. Typically when we raise our hand all the way up 180 degrees. The first around 120 degrees comes from directly our shoulder joint, right? But
the first kind of up to about here?
Yep, 120 degrees typically comes from around our deltoids, around our supraspinatus, around there. So like our shoulder, this like right here, right? Mm-hmm. The remaining 60 degrees comes from our back shoulder muscles.
Interesting. Okay.
Right. So our scapular muscles. Right. So doing things
kind of
like rows
between like the neck and the shoulder, like through here.
Yeah, that bone in the back, that wing, it has a bunch of bones that are a bunch of muscles that are hooked to it that allow for a coupling effect to do that remaining 60 degrees.
Gotcha.
So working your back, so doing rows in the gym, that's a big one. Rows in every type of angle that you can think of is great. A lot of times we'll do shoulders, but we'll forget our posterior shoulder muscles. So rows is big. Rows is huge.
And then the pushing motion is important too, of course, just for kind of maintaining that movement pattern.
It's simple. It's funny we think about it like, oh, what about a push-up? No, I'm literally talking about quality of life. If you're 60 years old and you can't open a door, right? If a door weighs 10 pounds and you have an inability to push it, that's just a pushing motion. Now you're locked in that room, right? Yeah. So it's like, I know it's like for us in our age group and things like that, but just being mindful of like, make sure you can continuously be able to do, 10 push-ups in a row.
It's all kind of use it or lose it stuff. Like you've got to just keep up those motions to keep them.
And consistency is the number one sign for success, right? Now, no matter what you do. But the other thing I would also put in for a key to like, are you healthy? Is can you get up from the floor?
Yeah, just simply.
Can you get up to the floor? Can you get up from the floor? Can you go down on your own? And can you get up on your own without pain?
Yeah, and probably without like having to pull yourself up.
Exactly. No, on your own. Just like literally, can you get down on your own and can you get up on your own in a nice controlled fashion? And that in a lot of ways it shows your quality of life.
So could you talk a little bit about, we talked off air also about your full body diagnostic checkup and how that kind of works into your business, how you came up with that. It sounds like it's kind of meant to check into a lot of these things, but could you talk about how that came to be and how that's become like the basis of your business?
Truthfully, it is the staple of where I feel I can make a change in the healthcare system. And it goes back to what we're talking about, why don't we check our bodies, once a year or twice a year, right? So over the last 10 years of just going through, not only as a observer, but as a student and then a graduate student, and now, in the field for about, 2 years now, I came up with a 35 plus measurement screening that does mobility screen, strength screen, balance screen, and functional movement assessment screen, all done with as much objective data, so numbers that show you where you are and where you should be, right? in less than an hour.
So there's like a score for each thing?
You will literally see, for example, when we test your strength, you'll see how much force you're putting through each individual muscle that you're doing.
Very cool.
As you're doing it. So we talked about technology. I love technology. So you'll literally, we'll put up the objective thing on the computer or on the TV monitors, and as you're doing it, you can see it. So you can start to get competitive yourself, see really pushing those limits. And it's not me, Kevin, saying, hey, you did good. It's like, nope, you saw the difference between one or the other. And one thing we look at is, so that is the premise of pretty much saying, okay, the first thing we look at for people in terms of health is how symmetrical are you from one side of the body or the other, right? And what we look at is we want everything to be less than 10% asymmetry.
Gotcha.
You're gonna have a dominant side. Most of the time we do, but we want it to be less than 10% difference.
Yeah, I think you probably see a lot of imbalances come out of like those asymmetries getting more and more out of control, and like the dominant side being reinforced over and over again, and the non-dominant side not really getting enough work.
And what ends up happening is a lot of these people, they come in, right? And again, it's not waiting until you're on the side of the road, right? So it's the thought process of like, I knew this was bothering me, I just didn't know why, right? And you start to get those answers. Not waiting until you're injured and now you're just like stuck and you're really injured and whatever the case may be. You like, oh, whoa, okay, yeah, my hamstring is 30% different than the other. That makes sense why it gets tired and it feels like it's gonna cramp sometimes, right? Oh, I need to start working on that. Like I realize it's that, not my quads, or that I'm not working on my quads enough. No, those are great. Like it's really understanding that. So from a business perspective, or from a healthcare perspective and a physician perspective, it is our version of going, this is what a physical should be. Right? It kind of goes against what the healthcare system wants, which I understand, but I'm like, no. And the way that, okay, well, Kevin, you said that, how do you monetize, right? Like, have you figured out how to monetize preventative care, right? The answer to that is quote unquote yes, right? So it's a $300 value, but what we're doing that's really, really cool to kind of change the framework of how people see how physical therapists work and how what a physical should be. We're doing it based off of what we call a proud to pay system. Right, so
explain that a little bit.
It's a fascinating thing that I have to give credit to. There's two places. There's a place called Credo, actually out here, Credo Coffee. It's out in downtown Orlando, and they serve you coffee, and in the menu it will tell you
the $4 to $6.
Exactly.
Yeah, I went to that place recently. Yeah,
and you can pay $1 or you can pay $100. Right? You can pay. Most people pay around what the value is. Right? But either way, they're not going to get upset at you regardless, because it's a community of people so one balances out the other. Right? So it's a proud to pay system. You're going to pay whatever you're proud at the end of the day. There's an artist out in I don't want to say California, so Oakland to be specific, I believe, LaRusso, and he sells his tickets based off a proud to pay system. Right? And this is genius to me, because what it does is it goes, okay, I'm going to be loyal to the people and they're going to support me however they're going to. And you don't limit how many people you can help. You also don't limit how much you can make.
Yeah.
Right? So from a business perspective, you're going, okay, one person's going to come in and they might pay me $400, right, for the eval. Somebody else might come in and pay me $50, right? But the best part about it is you don't pay me until the end of the visit, right? So it puts onus on the physician to make sure that they treat you and perform and show you the value of what they're trying to do.
This was the thing that stood out to me when I talked to you the most before, is how much it was important to you to really like set up your business model such that it held you accountable the entire time, because you had pointed out such an issue with that and like the typical physical therapy practice is that it's very much set up for you to get your doctorate and then just go like run people through the system as quickly and efficiently as possible without really, really focusing on the issues. But I mean, if someone really, really gets good value, that's going to ultimately lead them to want to pay more. And so it does put you on the hook to really provide that value.
100%. And like I said, it's a proud to pay system. So even because I always I try to listen so much on feedback. Right. And a lot of the feedback with the healthcare system in itself is doctors are hard to get a hold of. Right? Availability is hard. It's so hard to schedule an appointment. It's hard to communicate them when we have follow-up questions. I feel like they don't listen to me when I'm there. I feel like I'm just a number. So they're just literally just going through it. Right? They take their copay typically before, right? So they already have your service. They can just get in, get out. They don't explain and educate things. Right? They're kind of behind on technology. Right?
Yeah.
So all these things that we hear and we go, we got to solve all these problems. And that's what you get with Switch. We have and let's say the full body diagnostic checkup, you can literally schedule that on my website, click to whatever available times. I'm not lying to you. You can see what times are available. You click it, you put your information, you sign a consent form, medical history. It's done in less than 3 to 5 minutes.
awesome.
Right? That's solid. You pay me at the end of the visit, and it's whatever it's worth to you. So I don't even know what you're going to pay me. I hope it's great, and I got to prove that value to you, right? So there's no what's insurance going to say at the end of this, or a hidden bill at the end of it.
Now, this model sounds a little different than what you had initially started with and what we talked about before. You talked about a little bit off air about how your business model has changed and kind of adapted as you've gotten into it a little bit more. Could you talk a little bit about
the change?
About the change, but also just about the process of realizing that you needed a change, what led to that, and why you chose to adapt.
So before I had what was called a problem-based solutions, right, business, which is still essentially a part of it. It's like almost like it's a hidden, I'm solving problems, right, of what's going on with the healthcare system. But what this specific thing is called, with the full body diagnostic checkup, it's an offer-based service, right? So, or a proud to pay service, like I said. So I'm going, okay, I'm pretty much taking the excuses out of it, right? So that's one way that it's evolved, and it's allowed people to change the framework of, I don't have to go to physical therapy necessarily when I have a problem, right? I can go to physical therapy because I'm reframing the understanding of, like, to make sure I'm good.
Yeah.
Right? The goal for me is saying, you come in just like a NASCAR when it's going around, we go in, oh, you're good, keep going. Or, hey, let's change this real quick. All right, now you're good. Right?
It's like redefining the physical.
Exactly. And this is where this is where it really hit me. And understanding goes back to business, right? And I'm transparent about this because at the end of the day, if I help people, then I'm helping people. That's the foundation of what I'm doing. So I don't feel bad about this, right? It was really hard in the beginning walking around and trying to say, hey, come work with me when I'm literally just looking for injured people.
Yeah.
Right? So what percentage of the people are injured and want to go find help? That's a small percentage. And a lot of them are insecure or in pain or just don't feel like they can get better. There's a lot of issues with that. Versus the full body diagnostic checkup is now something I can talk to and market with every single person walking the face of this earth.
Yeah.
Right? So I just went from having a target audience to use my services of less than 5% of the population to 100.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a much bigger market.
That's a much bigger market. So now I can confidently go, no, I can help you. I can help you. At the end of the day, it's an annual physical or biannual physical. So I can help you. And that's where it led to go, okay, so not only can I help people and people can come into my business based off this, essentially this really in-depth professional athlete type level screening, right? And I'm not trying to sell you on, or you don't have to be committed to be like, now you're going to work with me for 12 weeks, right? No, you can come, hey, see you in 6 months, or to do your biannual checkup, or next year, right? And then I have my subscription base.
So yeah, you had talked about that a little bit as well. What led to the subscription choice, and how did you kind of build that out to complement?
So I knew I always, we talked about this a little bit, maintaining a roster, right? So I know I want to be able to I'm still a physical therapist, right? So I help people either prevent injuries and maximize performance, right? Or get out of injury and then prevent and maximize performance, right? So there's all those levels to it. So the subscriptions are kind of based off of, okay, if you're
meeting them where they're at.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you are just someone who's like, I'm active and I want to make sure I'm always good, right? Then you do the Swish Light. You come in twice a month, and we do the things that needed to keep you green in your green light. And maybe if you start to teeter in a level because maybe you had a hard week of practice or a hard week at work or whatever the case may be, then during those two times a month, we're going to make sure you're still at green, right? And then the Swish Pro is like, I'm kind of dealing with something. I'm in that yellow. I want to be able to get green as soon as possible and make sure I stay there and blah, 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 right? So that's for that. And then the Swiss Pro Plus is for two people. Either you are injured going through something, like are injured and need to get out of that and then go back to performance and make your way, then there's more visits with that. On top of the people who are just more active and want more recovery sessions, like an athlete going through a season, right, or a year-round season, or someone, even someone like me, I'm about to be in an adult league. I would love to have Swiss Pro Plus. That way I know every once a week I'm going to go and I'm going to get my recovery, right? But I'm not waiting till I'm necessarily injured.
Exactly.
Right? So I have the offer-based and the subscription-based, and those are the two things. So, and that's limited to a certain amount. So I've been blessed to where I'm only going to do a total of what do I have? Yeah, 25 for the year.
Okay.
25 for the year, and we signed our first 9 in the month of January. So we only have 16 slots left for the rest of the year, but I will still do our full body diagnostic checkups, right? Because that's a checkup right? And then, but at the end of the day, we're taking.
So you've got the base of subscriptions, and you want to be at a certain place for that. And then on top of that, you've got any kind of full body diagnostics that can be added with the offer. So you can kind of like, you can kind of add on top of that. I think that's a really good model. I mean, it kind of keeps you covered. It's almost like having a sales position where you've got like a base plus commission.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way to look at it. And then the cool thing is it's actually a healthcare system that's based around how can I help you, right? Not
and preventative.
Exactly. I'm maximizing performance.
I love it. Could you talk a little bit also about just the content creation and the podcasts that you've been doing? Because you've been, I've seen you kind of consistently doing some other podcasts and going on and like creating content to talk about this. Is that, what is the strategy behind that?
We talked about it a little bit when in our last one was building brand, right? I just realized, and it was through understanding that there's not a lot of representation, not only of my age, but also of my ethnicity, so on and so forth. So I've been fortunate enough where it's almost come out of. I now like have a feeling like I owe a sense of responsibility because I've had people come up to me and been like. Hey Kev, I just want to say thank you. I've had people be like, I didn't think this was real until I saw you. Because if you look at really if you look at the profession, and I'm honored to do this. I'm really like the youngest one really doing it, and I only that's only gonna be for a certain amount of time before the next person. And I hope the next person says that and takes what I'm doing and through. But I've just realized like, oh wow, I have a responsibility now. Yeah. And so by me going on to these different podcasts, it forces me to get myself out there and to answer these questions that people might have not listened to or just been like, I can't relate to this person.
And you're a bit of a unicorn in the sense that you do have that incredible knowledge around the space and the right approach, in my opinion, at least, to how you're doing it, but also do take the sales and marketing initiative and see it through that lens. And you're well-spoken enough to be able to deliver the message well. So I think you're the perfect guy for it. I mean, just to deliver that message, there's not a lot of that out there. I see a lot of content around physical therapy just being a little boring or like just not engaging enough to really get the message across. And you really do have to have it. Any kind of content has to still be entertaining and engaging to get the message across if it's educational. So I think having that whole package is what makes you kind of uniquely qualified for that.
I appreciate that, and and it's a work in progress for sure. And I completely just understand the importance of it doesn't have to be boring and not cool. Like that's the thing that drives me crazy. Is like it doesn't have to be like it can be cool, it can be entertaining, it can be understanding. Like first of all, most if you see a lot of PTs talk in a way that they're like talking to other PTs. Like
it's the quickest way to get the general public that needs your knowledge to tune out of whatever you're saying.
Oh my gosh, it's like that's not who you're trying to reach, right? You can go. Yes, I should probably educate some more on like certain things, in which that maybe is going to come soon. But my biggest thing is just making people aware of what we actually do. Yeah, and that's how can I break down what we do and how we do to the general public.
That's interesting. You kind of in content creation in general, you always have to check yourself in that sense and say, am I creating this or talking about this or doing this for me and for selfish reasons, or am I doing it for the viewers or the audience that I'm looking for, the message that I want to ultimately get across?
Yes, and at the end of the day, business is incredible where if you just know that what you're doing, the substance behind what you're doing is for good, the fire that puts in me to be passionate about and driven towards me marketing and having a good business so that way to make sure my family is eating, right? I'm good. I am so motivated to go. I know that what I have and what we're doing is good. Yeah. I'm not afraid of marketing and sales. So if you work in a system that's flawed, right, you're going to be shitty at or bad or whatever. However, I don't know if I can curse, but bad
you're
at.
Good.
All right, good. Be shitty at kind of marketing and sales. So therefore, because you don't feel like you're actually doing what's best for the people.
Yeah, and your message is not going to be compelling.
Exactly. You don't believe in it.
That's a great point that you made, that it's not often approached like a business because there's a stigma around it. But really, the best and most successful businesses are the ones like that you said are based around something good that is like a compelling, positive message, helpful message to the world. those are always people are always going to be able to see through faulty, bad messages or harmful things, and those businesses will never rise to the top.
Like there should be a symbiotic relationship between helping people and having good business, right? But people think having good business is like you're kind of screwing people over, and it's like no, let's reframe that perspective, right? We know like when you watch an NBA game or when you go to these games, like they're making a heck of a lot of money, but you're having a great time. You're having a great experience, just so on and so forth. So it's just knowing like business and helping people shouldn't be perpendicular. They should be parallel in how they go about it.
So we've talked a little bit about some of the adjustments and adaptations that you've made in your business model so far. Got a question for you. What is just the most prevailing thought that you have day to day right now as it pertains to your career?
As it pertains to my career, my answer to that would be, am I too soon? And
Explain what you mean
what
by
I mean by that is I have the idea of, I want to be able to open up the door for the next person, right? But the example I'll give is Netflix wasn't the first streaming service, right? But so before it was somebody else, I don't know the name of them, the perfect example, I don't know the name of them, but the internet bandwidth wasn't fast enough to be able to stream, right? So when Netflix came along, it was at the perfect timing when the internet bandwidth was fast enough to stream, so therefore they blew up because the environment and system was ready for them.
So you're thinking about, is the world ready for this message that I'm trying to give in the format I'm trying to give it?
Yes. Is the internet or the environment ready for it? Like, so no matter what I do, or how much I do, am I too soon, or am I not enough for how big the healthcare system is?
And there's so many examples of that in business. I mean, that's a very good point. You see it all the time. You see these like big players kind of spring up overnight, and sometimes they do really well at first, but then they just get completely taken down because of some little thing that they didn't anticipate, that the next guy comes along and just climbs up on top.
And I'm okay either way, right? I'm okay if I'm the reason why somebody was able to do it coming up forward, or if I'm the one that's opening the door. I'm cool with either. I'm not scared of failure. I think failure is necessary. So I'm not really scared of it, but that's definitely a thought I have.
That's fascinating. So we've kind of talked about everything you do. You've got the offer-based and the subscription-based. You're doing some content. You're doing all kinds of stuff, like wearing a lot of hats in your business, as any business owner does, especially in the early stages, right? Like a lot of hats, especially right now. What is, if out of like the daily and weekly tasks that you have, if there was just one thing, if you could zone in on one thing and do nothing but that, the thing that you enjoy doing the most, what would that one thing be in your week?
It would be treating my patients. Like at the end of the day, I am fascinated by being able to put evidence, client experience, and physician experience into making somebody feel and move as best as possible.
I love that.
Yeah, that's where I feel comfortable.
What's something that you would like to just give back to your industry? We've kind of talked about like some of the issues in it. If there was one thing that you could just be known for having, and actually I'm going to combine two questions here. Say that there was a Forbes article written about you and the way that you've built and scaled your business in 5 years, and it was based around what you'd given back to your industry. What would you want to be written about you in that article?
I would love for the article to say that I didn't sacrifice my personal and professional health in order to meet some sort of height. So like if I were to leave a mark, I would say I want PTs to know that they have the right to be financially successful, right? While also living a nice quality of life. You have the right. You just have to know how.
Yeah.
And that's what I would say is like I somehow figured out how to have financial success and professional success.
I love it. As part of that financial and professional success you've been having, I know that having your own space has been really important. We talked about that because you had just gotten it a few months before when we talked before, so now we're a little bit further along the line. How has having that space that you built out helped your practice, and how has that how has that worked, like in the process of having your own practice and bringing that along?
It's absolutely incredible to make an environment where not only do I feel comfortable literally every day, I look forward to going into work because I created the atmosphere creatively, so I feel comfortable creatively, I feel comfortable business-wise, but more importantly, when my clients come in, it's like when the first time they come in and they go, "It's a nice place," that makes me really happy, right? So it makes sure that they feel comfortable, therefore they're going to feel more open, more at ease when it comes time to do things like doing things that's uncomfortable for them. I always say PT is almost like controlled failure, right? So, if the more comfortable they are, the more the environment they feel safe in, the more trust they're going to have, the better the results they're going to get.
I love that. Another thing I remember being really important to you that we'd shared in common when we talked before has kind of remained true is just this fascination with like continuing to improve and learn in business and technology. What are the things lately that you've been educating yourself around or learning about in business and or technology that you're really fixated on and really getting into?
I'm recently, just because like literally probably like 2 days ago, I've finally just decided to be like, you know what, I got to look at this whole AI thing.
Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit off air.
I'm like, okay, how can I always find it fascinating how like healthcare is always behind in marketing, visually aesthetics, entertainment, sales, and so therefore it's like, and then now I guess it's artificial intelligence, but it's like, okay, how can you make sure that you're evolved in these things or aware of these things so that way you can stay ahead of the curve. So that's what I would say is like, I'm going to look into AI and see how it can actually benefit a healthcare system.
Yeah.
Or healthcare practice.
What are some things that come to mind like that you've maybe thought of so far? Like what are the problem areas that lack technology advancement and automation in the healthcare industry right now? Could maybe do a little live brainstorming here.
Wow, that is awesome. I would say, like, I don't know if there's some sort of like cap. Like, I understand we have to make sure we have content available, right? Like video production stuff available. But like, I wonder if it can create content just so much more efficiently.
So one thing that comes to mind is scripting. You can tell it to create a script around this particular thing. If you want to make a content video, like a 5-minute content video on your full body diagnostic checkup, you can say, write me a script on the movement write me a 5 to 10 minute script on doing the daily movement patterns that it takes to avoid this, and this issue.
Wow.
And like it's the thing that I love about, like we were talking about ChatGPT, and this is the one that I use. It's the only one I've really tried out, but there are others as well that do more like specific or niche things. But I think of it as almost a better Google search engine, and it's basically like as good of an input as you can give it, and as sophisticated of an input as you can give it, you're gonna get an equally sophisticated and quality output out of it. So if you ask it if you ask it a really bad question, like, if you just say, hey, give me my next piece of content. It's not going to be able to do anything.
Go screw yourself. How about that?
Yeah. But if you say, like, give me a script for this particular thing, then all of a sudden you're talking about a different thing. So I think like just learning about how it takes its inputs and how you can give it good inputs, and then creatively kind of taking like what you want to create around that and working that in, that's how you can really be successful with that.
Interesting.
So I would say the first thing that comes to mind is just doing the scripts. That would be cool.
That would be interesting. Yeah, I got to look into it.
Yeah. Like doing some, because you do your videos where you're like walking people through things and stuff.
Yeah.
But one thing I've noticed recently is I'm starting to create these little like extra videos that I'll do around my channel a little bit, just little ideas I have and stuff. If I script something out, it's way better. Like way, way better. And I never would have guessed it. I always thought with the podcast, it's not really scripted. It's just kind of organic.
Yeah.
And I think that is better for that format.
Yeah.
But for like a specific thing where you're trying to educate or inform, I think scripting works really well.
It's going to take a lot of taking away your pride and ego.
Exactly. Yeah. You feel like you've got it all figured out, and you like, and I mean, in a sense, you do. Like, if you're just talking to someone about it, like day to day, like you are giving the message the right way. But sometimes it's hard to translate that into like really bite-sized, easy to deliver pieces of information that really hit hard.
Just time. It takes time to create content. It takes time and effort to be like, is this actually like an appropriate thing to say, so on and so forth. So I think some way to, even if it's like, if ChatGPT or whatever, I always say you always get it wrong, but if an AI can like manage to give you like an extra hour of time, that is huge, right?
Exactly.
Like, so that's kind of how I would love to figure that out.
I love it. What kind of other things do you see going forward that you're excited about with your business personally, or that you're working on right now? What are like the big areas that you're looking to address and improve on?
The biggest areas that I'm looking to improve on, I would say, is constantly asking for feedback on my subscribers. So, you know, our Swish athletes is what I call them. So any one of the subscribers, constantly ask them, how can I make your experience with me working for an entire year better, right? So that answer would have to be something that they give me, you know, per se. But so because this is the first time us doing it, right? So this first year, people are taking a huge trust, which I'm so grateful for, to go, okay, well, I know you guys are just signing up for this, but just like anything, like how can I make sure to continue to get you guys involved and make sure that you are like overvalued, you know, like we over deliver, I should say. We over deliver on what you guys get. So that would be me. It's my first year doing this, so I would say that's what I would love to figure it out, to be honest with you.
I love it. Mm-hmm. Looking forward, I know this might be a tough question for you because you like the process of learning and improving so much that this might be a point that you never reach, and that's probably a good thing. Mm-hmm. But what are some of the things that would tell you, if you were looking like 5-10 years from now, what are some of the things that would tell you that you made it? Like you've reached the destination that you want to be at, and you're doing it right.
I would love to give a TED Talk.
Ooh, I like that.
That's like a big dream I've always had. I would love to get a TED Talk, and then more importantly, it's just figuring out, or just out where I feel, okay, I have a topic, I have something that is like, I'm passionate enough to be like, okay, I have my topic. Right?
I have a kind of an inkling of what your topic would be. It sounds like you kind of semi have it figured out already.
Which is beautiful, because I literally tell you this, I got to this point probably early November, where I finally got all the tests together and an understanding of what I want to use, what force plates I want to use, what dynamometer do I want to use, what literal like system do I want to get to, and how business wise we can get there, right? And the beautiful thing about it is, so yeah, TED Talk of and then it kind of transitions to the next thing where I can then coach or / consult to go, because remember, I'm not even trying to work with everybody, right? And I've always said that it's not for me. It's not quantity. It's quality, right? I'm only one person. I'm not trying to get as many people as possible. Right, so the goal is to go, all right, there's somebody in, you know, I'm in East Orlando, so there's somebody in West Orlando that's going to open something up, and they're going to do, their form of a checkup, right? So now instead
maybe
of
a Swish PT franchise,
maybe, or even if they want to do their own thing, but at least we know that PT is moving in the right direction. Yeah, where now someone can go into business saying, I'm not waiting till someone gets injured. Yeah. And that in itself it becomes successful because of Swish, right? Someone can actually go, wait, this is actually a legitimate thing that we can do, even if it's across the country.
Anything else that you would want to kind of give to the audience or make sure is known or understood about the physical therapy space and the healthcare space?
Just really big emphasis on don't wait until you're injured. That's the biggest thing I can say. Is what's the driving force for me, and what's always been the kind of the North Star is, if I would have had myself at 14 years old, I would have probably avoided all the injuries I had. Yeah. So every decision I make is, you know, am I providing that the same level of resources I would have wanted at 16, at 14, at 21, 22, 24, 26, whatever, 29 now. And so on and so forth. So just knowing that there is an actual resource out there that is fighting for you to be seen, be taken care of, not waiting for you to get injured, and also knowing that we're not also capitalistic in a sense where we're just trying to make as much money as possible. For example, we have a Proud to Pay system, and on top of that, a portion of our proceeds are going to be going to the Orlando Magic Wheelchair Foundation, right? And every year we're going to be picking a different nonprofit organization to give back to.
That's awesome.
Right. And it only made sense that we're Swish Physical Therapy, and I'm a basketball fanatic, and so therefore the first one we chose for our first year of doing this is the Orlando Magic Wheelchair Foundation.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So when you come in, not only are you helping yourself, you're helping a family-owned, minority-owned business, but you're also helping people who are just trying to live an active lifestyle with a disability that they have.
That's so awesome. I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been great.
Yeah, man.
We got right into it.
Second time. Oh,
yeah.
I'm so excited. I love coming here. Like, literally, I could just be like a fly in the wall every single time we have an episode.
Well, I am looking forward to just continuing to watch you grow and thrive in this business. I think you're giving an incredible message, and I am excited to see that reach that you have expand so that more people can hear it.
Likewise, man. If you know anyone else to do a full body diagnostic checkup, including yourself, go ahead and sign up. I appreciate it, just so you can kind of know what it's like and what we kind of put people through. And
yeah, if you want, go ahead and plug any details on how people can find you anywhere.
Yes. GetSwishPT.com is where you go to the full website where you can schedule there. Or if you want the direct link, it's GetSwishPT.com/schedule.
Cool.
It's very easy. It takes less than 3 to 5 minutes. You pick the slots that's there. And then you can follow me at Dr. Coach Kev on Instagram, YouTube, or Swish.physical therapy on
Love it.
Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much.
Yeah. And the last thing I would say for you is, and I said this a little bit off air, but I want to say it on air because you deserve it, because we don't give people enough flowers, is what you do and the continuous growth from an outside perspective and in with it being my second episode, you have every reason and purpose to blow up and do everything you want moving forward. Man, I love what you do. Seriously.
You too, man. Thanks.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you again.